prison of your ego when you act in tune with the consciousness that fits you, that makes you worthy of living in the freedom of spirit. And what is that freedom and what is that worthiness? The consciousness of having it already. To pray for joy means to pray also with joy. To pray for love means to pray with love. It's a very subtle and difficult thing. To achieve proper humility is to simply recognize that He is the doer, and not to just constantly abase yourself and say, I'm no good. That doesn't help you. I remember one time when I was working on developing humility, Master was scolding me for intellectual pride. And I kept trying to mentally abase myself and say, well, I don't really know all that much, but I was still thinking of me, and it didn't get me very far. And I just kept struggling, how do I do this? And then suddenly I woke up one meditation to the realization that after all, it's He who does it, and it's His thing, not mine. And I just gave it all to Him and felt this great release in my own consciousness. And after that meditation, I went out and I saw Master standing on the driveway there above the tennis courts, and I went over to him and sought his blessing. And as soon as he saw me, he touched me and he said, very good. But he knew those thoughts immediately. I felt the release. I didn't need him to tell me, but he was corroborating what I had felt, which also was very sweet. The fact is that when you think it in the right way, the release comes instantly. As soon as I understood, there was no problem anymore. Grace, therefore, is not something that is only a matter of God's will. It is partly His will. You can't expect to do it yourself. You've got to get away from that thought that my ego can determine it. Your ego can determine a lot, yes.
I like to start with this story from Nayaswami Devi's blog from a few months back. There's a beautiful story of a devotee whose heart was pure, guileless, and filled with devotion for God. Every morning at the end of his meditation, he would pray, Lord, whenever you call me to forsake this world, at that moment I will come. Though God never called, Ram Das, the devotee, still offered his heartfelt prayer daily. Time passed, and he and his wife became filled with great joy, awaiting the birth of their first child. But such is the nature of Maya's alternating waves of joy and sorrow, that his happiness turned to grief when his wife died in childbirth. As he took the helpless baby in his arms, Ram Das was filled with parental love and desire to protect his tiny motherless child. Just at that moment, God broke his silence and called to him, Ram Das, now is the time for you to leave all and come to me. With eyes filled with tears, Ram Das replied, Lord, you know that you are my heart's first love, and I will come, but I also have a human heart. Please assure me that this child will be cared for. In response, God said to him, place the infant in a basket and leave it along the road outside the village. Then wait behind a tree and see what happens. Ram Das did as God instructed him, and after a while he heard the sound of many horses approaching. It was the queen of the realm and her entourage en route to a nearby city. At the sound of the horses, the infant awoke from his slumber and began to cry. Hearing the wailing, the queen stopped the entourage and instructed one of her attendants to bring the baby to her. Ram Das watched in amazement as the queen took his child in her arms and said, I will raise this poor abandoned baby as my own. He dedicated the rest of his life to seeking God. His heart reassured, Ram Das quietly walked away in the forest to dedicate the rest of his life to God alone. This is such a beautiful story, and one that really fills our hearts with love and with joy, and all the practices that we have, as I was thinking of this, are to bring us to that point where we can offer ourselves absolutely completely, with no pulls, with no attachments, with no desires, with no plans that we still want to work out, with nothing that we still want to do. We can offer ourselves completely at the feet of the divine. And when we do our fire ceremonies, we say the words Om and Swaha. We use our hands in this way to show that we're releasing all attachments, we're releasing problems, we're releasing worries, we're releasing desires, we're letting go. And there's such a joy that comes with that release in our souls, because none of those things are who we are. I was seeing someone yesterday who was just continually taking pictures of herself. And I just thought it's so silly just to continuously look at this face, think of this personality, this background, this nationality, whatever. It's a covering over the soul and really the bliss of God. And I remember when I first moved into Ananda House, and this was in Palo Alto. I was so happy to just get rid of all those things that I had and all those thoughts and desires. And it took me a while. I didn't want to move there. And people kept saying, well, why don't you move? And no, I don't want to. I don't want to. And that was the ego. And then when I moved there, I just remember I was so happy, even though I lived in a very small quarters with another woman and there wasn't much room there. I just remember my soul was so uplifted. And I remember living in a little cabin at Ananda Village, a bare cabin. And I just felt so happy and so free. And also when I took vows of Nayaswami, just the wonderful feeling of just release, just feeling that all of those outer coverings, it's not who I am. I'm affirming who I am in my soul. And these are my favorite words from that vow. I surely won't share the whole vow, but a couple of lines. I no longer exist as a separate entity, but offer my life unreservedly into thy great ocean of awareness. And one other line that I love, I am free in thy joy and will rejoice forever in thy blissful presence. And when we think of our ceremonies that we do, bathing in the Ganges or being baptized, as I was when I was in the Baptist church, or Kriya Diksha or discipleship Diksha, and many people have taken the pilgrim's vow or aspiring to become a sadhaka, or all the ceremonies, the attunement, the superconscious attunement ceremony, the purification ceremony, all of those are helping us to open ourselves, to be more receptive. And where I recall thinking of these songs, when Swamiji first wrote the song, I Want Only Thee, Lord, nobody could say that was honestly, sincerely all that they wanted. But Swamiji said, just affirm it then. We need to affirm that we will be free. It's our destiny. We will offer our whole selves. And the chant, door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Well, it might be just cracked right now, but you keep opening and opening and opening with everything that we're doing. Just affirm, I'm becoming more and more free. As Master said, I, the cosmic sea, watch the little ego floating in me. And we think of the devotional practices that we do. remember one devotee asked Master, because he would just always be thinking of Guruji, Guruji, and he asked Master, should I be thinking of you or should I be thinking of God? And Master said, be thinking of God. Don't be thinking of me. And we have to go beyond the form. And it's, it's difficult because we're used to form, because we are form and we see form. But I was recalling a story of Ramakrishna, who he just worshiped the form of the divine, but in a form. And even in his meditations, it was, form there. And his guru, Totapuri, came one day and he just put a piece of glass and he just crashed it, jammed it into his forehead. And he said, now focus there and go beyond that form. Go into the infinite. And everything that we're doing as we do our meditations, we should feel I'm going into the infinite. I'm releasing myself. I'm releasing this body. I'm releasing these thoughts. I'm releasing my personality. I recall when I first came to Ananda, I gathered up all my old pictures from high school and who knows when and what was all going on. I took those pictures and I built a fire and I just threw them in the fire. And I just said, that's not who I am anymore. And you have to realize that it's not. And long as we hang on to, oh, this was so nice, and this is so wonderful, and this is so beautiful, and I'm so beautiful, and then you start losing your hair and you start gaining weight and you're not as beautiful anymore. And you realize that inside there is that same spark, that beautiful light of God is ever there. And as we do our seva, we should be thinking, I'm offering not money. For example, there was one man who put $100 bill in the collection basket, Master said, at one of the churches, their Master's time. And he said, no, I'm going to get something back from that because that's a lot of money. And Master said that Divine Mother was already the money. She didn't need him to give it. He needed to give it. And so as we give, we just feel like I'm giving myself, not money. I'm giving myself. As we do seva, I'm giving myself. I'm not singing a song, or I'm a teacher, I'm the yoga instructor, I'm the healer. I've heard that one. I'm giving myself, my energy, everything I am, so I can get rid of this feeling of limitation, of lack, of ego. I'm offering myself. Everything that we do in your work, with your relationships and everything, offer yourself. And it comes down to everything will have to go. Remember, Gyanamata was saying, even the little place she had for herself at the ashram where she would go and be by herself, she said, even that, and even, someone was saying, even going out to the beach and seeing the water, even that, at the very end, everything must go. But as Swamiji, Master quoted Swamiji often saying, when ecstasy comes, everything goes. And you don't even want anything else. It seems like stale cheese compared to nectar. So as we go forward, don't just think it's going to happen. Just try your best to every way and everything you do. And you do Hong Sa, feel like I'm merging. I'm releasing myself into breathlessness. When you do the Om technique, I'm merging with Om. When you do Kriya, just feel like I'm merging myself with bliss, and expand, and expand until you feel that wave of the ocean of your consciousness has become the ocean of spirit. And until that time, we're still just bound by the limitations of this body, of this mind. But ultimately, we are seeking freedom. And to find eternal freedom, to find final realization, finally, you have to offer your whole self, your whole being. God bless you. I'll ask Nitendra now to come on with the questions that we have for today.
Janaji, I'll just share my screen with the questions. So the first question, Janaji, is, I can't really offer everything to God sincerely now. What should I do?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's dilemma. And I remember when I first read Autobiography of a Yogi and I started studying Master's teachings, and I remember he often quotes from the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. And I just knew I just couldn't do that. I just wanted to do too many other things. I had too many desires. I just wasn't ready for that. Seek ye first. I might put seek ye, but not first. And so I think it's the dilemma of the devotee. But as you keep going, as you try, as you're sincere in your heart, as you pray to Master. I want only what you want me to have. And if he said, go for it, if it's something you really need, to go for it. Don't become passive and limp, but just pray. Always add God to the equation. I think that's the point, to say, Divine Mother, if this is right, please, I'll take it from your hand, but not always having to hand out. I want this, I want that. It doesn't pay off in the end. But just to say, Divine Mother, I'm with you, and whatever you want me to have, that's what I'll have. To be able to seek thee, whatever I need, I'll take it from your hand. But realize that God has to be in the equation. I think that's the most important part.
Thank you, Dhyanji. The next question is, if I offer myself, won't I lose everything?
Yeah, that's a good question everybody has. Well, I can say I gained everything. And I think most people who are on the path for some time can say they've gained. I mean, I think of now, what did I have before I was on the path? Nothing. It's pretty simple. Maybe there was a shell there, but it wasn't filled up with anything. And so I would say you gain if you have a talent. If you have a talent for organizing, you'll organize much better. To be a better manager, a better director, a better leader. If you have a talent for singing, your voice will be sweeter. If you offer it to God, and you'll be able to sing more beautifully. You'll be able to sing in tune. You'll be able to sing from the chakras. You'll be able to sing from the spiritual eye. If you have a talent of doing yoga, well, you'll be able to do it better, because what happens is your ego gets out of the way. If the ego's in there, it's always a bit of a strain, and I am principle, look at me. But once the ego starts, sitting on the sidelines, then everything is more beautiful. Your voice is more beautiful. Your talks are more beautiful. Your yoga is more beautiful. You have more ideas. You have more inspiration coming to you. You have more friends. I mean, boy, before Ananda, I had some friends, but they were coming and going, but Guru Bhais is nothing like them. And then you have Swamiji, you have the masters, you have the teachings, so there's so much to be gained. And I would say hardly anything to be lost. Well, was one thing, you will be lost. The you that you think you are, that would be lost, and that's a good thing. And you'll gain who and what you really are.
We can take one last question. This is a live question.
Mm-hmm.
When we offer everything to God, but still pray for well-being of our children, is that attachment?
No, but whose children are they? So offer your children to God and say, Divine Mother, you bless them. They're your children. I'm the guardian in this lifetime. I remember someone who came to Swamiji, a girl who wanted to become a renunciate. She must have been in her 20s, and the parents were so attached. They just were grabbing onto her. And she was having an interview with Swamiji, and he said, well, she's your daughter in this life, but perhaps not in any others. So we have to realize our children, we're the guardians, we're helping them, but God is really behind the love that you feel for your children. And so pray here. I'm just saying, add God to the equation, add Divine Mother and say, Divine Mother, you protect them. The other day, I was getting out of a car and a three-wheeler, an auto came by really fast. I mean, I could have been killed, really. But except for the grace of God. And so you just never know. We have to offer everything. And what is the ultimate point of self-offering? That God is everything. God is us. God is all around us. God's in everybody in every situation. And Divine Mother, she protects us. She helps us. She loves us. And so don't think I'm praying for my child. That's me and mine. That's where the problem comes in. But these are God's children. They're in my care right now. And I give them all that I can with God's love, God's guidance, God's protection. Do what you can, but realize the attachment is where the door for Divine Mother is closed. In anything, if it's with your children, or your job, with your finances, with your health. No, I'm in charge of my health. I'm going to be doing this diet. I eat these kind of foods. I drink these juices. I take these vitamins. I'm in charge of my health, period. Well, try it. It doesn't work. But if you always say, Master, this is God's body. I'll do my best, but I need to work with you, with Divine Mother. And then I know 25% is my efforts, 25% your blessing. Half the equation is the grace of God. Never forget Divine Mother. It's her grace in the practices, in our health, in our wealth, in our well-being, in our inspiration. It's really God alone. God bless you all and have a wonderful day.